Hello, people of grace. In our worship service this upcoming Sunday, we'll be looking at a parable Jesus teaches about a shrewd manager. A shrewd manager. And in the context of that parable, in Luke chapter 16, verses 10 and 11, Jesus makes a relatively well-known statement of his, which is, "He who is faithful in little will be faithful in much. But he who is unfaithful in little will be unfaithful in much." So I want to talk about that today, and just very briefly, because we'll look at it more this coming Sunday. But one big point is faithfulness is the key. As Paul says to the Corinthians, knowing that we're entrusted with this life and this life is going to end, says, most of all, it is required of a steward that he be found faithful. But when we say faithful in little, faithful in much, it's important to recognize that in the parable and what Jesus is talking about, it's really found in verse 11, is that anything having to do with money is little. And other things in life that have to do with the kingdom and the souls of people, that's much. And that's clear not by looking at verse 10, where Jesus says, he was faithful in little will be faithful in much, or unfaithful in little, unfaithful in much. But the very next verse where Jesus says, so if you can't be faithful in the work of the kingdom and trustworthy with how you handle your money, then who will trust you with true riches of your own? So what are the true riches? Well, we can see what true riches are by looking at the mindset of Christ, his attitude, who emptied himself of glory, wealth, riches, to connect with people. We can also see it by looking at the Apostle Paul, who lost all of his earthly wealth and prestige and position so that he could be in the work of the kingdom and the saving of the souls of people. And he called what he lost dung, virtually worthless, compared to what he gained by knowing Christ. We can also look at Paul when he says that when he talks about the rewards of heaven, of glory and joy and crown, but he says to the Thessalonians, well, what is my glory and my joy and my crown? You, the people. So we put that together, we understand that faithfulness is key, money is small, but people, the hearts of the people and the work of the kingdom is big. And here's my quick summary for today. If you're not using your money in a way that really makes a difference in the lives of people, which often means giving without thought of return and even putting yourself at risk, sometimes even financially. If you can't even do that, then you're not being faithful with something that in God's eyes is actually very temporary and small. If you don't have a heart for people, they're the true riches, and you're not leveraging that to build God's kingdom in the hearts and souls of humanity, then you're just not trustworthy. And that's a challenging thought, but that's really what he's driving home in the parable of the shrewd manager, is that people of this world are better at manipulating money for this life's gain than people of the kingdom. But that doesn't lead to integrity. It's just something to understand. Of course, they're better at manipulating that because they're better at earthly risk assessment and making sure you retire well. And if you can help people along the way, fine. But God's all about, no, you're using all of this to help people. So that's the true riches, and that's big. Don't be small-souled. Be big-souled. And show by how you handle a small thing like money that you can be trusted to be there for people and for God's kingdom. Have a blessed day.